Hey everyone, Ruben here,
And Shane.
and this here is episode 11 of our Conversations About Something podcast. And on this episode, we're going to be getting into how to get started with your dog. So Shane, how does someone get started?
Well, first, I would say the hardest part is getting started, right? And then I think the next thing that you want to do is figure out how you want to get started, right? So maybe you're introducing the collar to your dog. You kind of teach it something, and so you need to break it down, so therefore you can start to start a foundation and build off the foundation. Again, waiting and procrastinating, I would say get information and then apply that information. Adjust your expectations to not be what you see in the videos, because you are not the trainer, you're not an expert, you're the beginner. So you need to make sure you have the beginner mindset. And then from there, build.
Yeah.
Start slow.
Yeah.
But I mean, this goes with every kind of thing that you're starting out doing.
Yes.
Right? Whatever you do, you're not going to be an expert at the very beginning of anything. It's learning a little bit, and then from there, applying what you have learned.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the first step to get started. I know I've done some things where it's like, oh man, this sounds so awesome. Oh yeah, I get so excited, but I don't really know anything about what I'm doing. And so it's like, I need to take the time to learn about exactly what it is that I'm doing. Not everything. I don't need to learn everything. Just some basic concepts. And then from those, I can build and start adding on to those, like little bits of more information. Oh, and I'm going to apply those things into that. See what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what I like, what I don't like, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, just like starting anything new, you're going to fumble. Maybe you guys have seen on my IG stories, I've started taking like dance classes and stuff, and very much a beginner there. Definitely fumbling over my feet. I watched the trainer, or I guess the instructor in this case, they're moving all fast, and I'm trying to watch their feet, and I'm pretty sure I'm doing the exact opposite of what they're doing. But just like Shane said, it's like, you're going to learn, you're going to learn as you go along, because you're going to fumble, but then those little mistakes are going to get cleaned up as you start to move along. I could probably go the extra mile and get on YouTube and watch these videos and things like that. I'm not doing that. I'm just showing up to class and kind of just getting thrown into the deep end. But I think that just falls into
Well, let me jump in on that. Just as you mentioned that, you could go onto YouTube, but it depends on what your goals are with what you're doing, right? If you're trying to become a professional dancer, yeah, you're probably going to look on YouTube and try taking in more information, doing dancing every single day. But this is just a hobby, one day out of the week is fine. You're not in any rush to learn more of the steps.
Yeah.
And so I think if we take it back into the dog concept, let's say you have a puppy, right? And you're just living your life with the dog. You can take your time to teach the dog these things. You could take the time to learn, and as you're learning, teaching the dog. I think things can change if someone has a dog that has developed, problematic behaviors. And now time has become of the essence.
Yeah, and I can definitely agree with that, like getting Oso, and working with him, and especially when we first got him, it was definitely feverishly watching videos, trying to find answers, not just like going slow. It was like, I got to find answers for this. And so I was like driven to watch videos, tons of videos.
It's like you need more time in the day to be able to apply these things that you were watching.
Yeah, but then there was also like just that learning curve of, I don't know any of this stuff, and so I'm trying to do it the best that I can. But that was how I learned, was watching something and then applying it.
Yeah. I don't know why, that just made me think of my first days at jiu-jitsu. When I first did the first class, I loved it. It was a good time. But I don't know how many times I got submitted. And then next class, I was too sore to go the next day. So a couple days later, when my body was recovered and I was able to go again, it was the same thing. Just, the hammer hit the nail, and I was the nail. Mm-hmm. And then, recover again the next day. And I remember, I'm like, how do I need to learn some more. I need some more stuff. But I'm not going frequently enough to learn these things. So I started going onto YouTube so I could start gaining extra knowledge. So then I could start applying those things in the class so I wouldn't be getting smashed all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, depending on the motivation, the need, and your want.
Yeah.
I think those kind of things are what's going to, what should affect our expectation and how we're going to approach this and what our results should be like.
And what that timeline might look like.
And what the timeline might look like, I was in a hurry because I was getting smashed all the time, so I was like, all right, I need to learn something so I can at least defense or some other kind of submission, something that could help me in my areas, and to not just lose in 10 seconds, And so it was like, all right, I'm going to YouTube videos in every moment that I possibly could. And it worked.
Yeah.
It allowed me to survive in the match, in the sparring grounds a little bit longer, right? And I think this it was like that way when I first started working with Polga. When I first adopted the dog, it was the same concept. YouTube videos. How do I control this crazy dog?
Yeah.
YouTube. And now, but at the same time, as much as I was watching, I was practicing, and then I had these expectations that I wanted these results to come quickly. But I didn't take into consideration that I was a newbie.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that newbies need to work on, which is timing and application of these things and what to look for and all of that stuff. It just comes through time, but I think that's a good point is, just not having the expectation of like, oh, I'm going to apply this and then I'm going to see results in a week or a day or a month or something. Like, you want to see results, but just removing that expectation of like when to see those results, because then that leads to frustration and maybe you give up on that thing too quickly and you're not just letting it go long enough to see the results.
I think that's a good thing to think about, is you could almost burn yourself out from that, especially in the beginning stages of, because you have these high expectations, you want to see the improvements and you're not seeing it, so the frustration kicks in, and then that could lead you to be like, I'm done, this doesn't work, I'm over it.
Yeah. I think one of the best things that I did, especially when it came to making progress with the dog, my own dog, was eliminating expectation and just watching the dog. And not really like almost like not even caring about results, just like going out and doing stuff with the dog. You know, it's like also was very dog reactive and very human reactive, but there definitely came a point where I stopped like going after those things. Like I stopped making that my focal point.
Yeah. All right.
And you know, I just started doing other things on the periphery that inevitably did help with his issues. You know, it was like focusing on his issues without focusing on his issues. You know, it was interesting.
It's like Bruce Lee, the art of fighting without fighting.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, maybe it was just because psychologically it was changing something, or I'm not sure, but that was definitely a big thing for me, because for a long time it was just like whenever we would go out, it was just, this is what we're working on. And I forgot about all the other things that I could also be working on, you know, or just doing with him in general, building up our relationship in other areas, because reactivity and you know, that's a relationship issue. It's a training issue, but it's also a relationship issue between you and your dog. And so I needed to focus on like, yeah, just other things, you know, what's on the periphery that I could be doing that can, you know, just get him to be a better dog in general, you know. And I can honestly say that him getting over his reactivity towards people and dogs really had nothing to do with going out around people and dogs. But now I can be around those things and be more or less without issue.
It's interesting, you know, it kind of just reminds me, like, you know, I feel like we have this, like, common saying that we have here in the facility, well, just like, you know, with us training the dogs and stuff, and we always mention, it's like, it's not about such and such issue.
Yeah.
You know, oh, the squirrel, it's not about the squirrel. It's more about the control of the dog and your relevance to the dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's not about the squirrel.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the food is the squirrel. The people walking in front of the windows is the squirrel.
Yeah.
But how does the dog, you know, that those things become, if those are more relevant than the handler, okay, that's your issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about those things, whatever that one particular thing is. Because those are just distractions. It's the relationship.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have this podcast. It's called, or I mean, this episode is like getting started. So, how does one get started, right? So, what I would say, you know, yeah, you want to work on relationship. How do you work on relationship? Teaching your dog things, having structure, having rules, having boundaries. You know, becoming relevant to your dog. Right? We see a lot, you know, dogs just disconnected.
But I think you can just, like, if you do things with your dog, but in a positive way, you know, I think it's not about, you know, like, inviting your dog up on the couch and cuddling with it.
No.
You know, that's not, because you don't seem like this person to follow. If you just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the dog needs to see you as this thing that's like, all right, yeah, I go with you.
That's capable.
I go this way. I follow you to this. You know, I had this weird thought the other day when I was heading out, and you know, Poet comes with me when I come here in the evenings, and you know, she just kind of is like, all right. She sees me getting ready, and she's like, oh, we're leaving now? I was like, yep, here. Leash you up, you know, and we go. And, you know, it just kind of made me think about that concept of, like, how the dog perceives me. You know, oh, yeah, I go with you. I follow you. You're my human, my leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just kind of, does your dog feel that way about you?
And do they feel that way about you, or do they feel that way about, like, the leash? You know,
I mean, yeah, I don't even have to grab the leash.
yeah,
You know, it's like, "Oh, you're leaving? Oh, I see the curiosity." It's like, "Yeah, I am. Let's go." You know, and they call you to me, whatnot. You know, it's not, I think it doesn't have the feeling of like, here's the lead. Ah, ah, wee, ah. You know what I mean? It's, what are we doing? But it's like, I am clearly getting my stuff ready to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just, because I've had that before where it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting the leash out, and Pulga used to get super squirrely.
mm-hmm.
You know, but now it doesn't happen like that often anymore.
Yeah,
It's different. The relationship seems to be different as the time has gone on, and we just have grown together.
yeah,
And so, building the relationship up so that you seem like this believable leader, that you will look out for the dog's going to follow you around because you are the pack, right? And that's what I think. And so, creating that, and then if you are relevant to the dog, just doing things with the dog. You know, yeah, we're going to go for a walk, but the dog's not the one that's leading the walk. I'm leading the walk.
yeah,
All right, now maybe I'm going to play a game with you. I initiated the play. I grabbed the toy. Yeah, let's play some games. Oh, yeah, okay.
you
All right,
are
now
the-
we're done.
You're the center of the universe.
Yeah, now we're done playing. I put the toy away. You know, it's not the dog that has the toys all available and it's just laying on its bed chewing the toys up.
Because
It's
now they're just occupying themselves, and you know, and I think that's one reason. It's like, you know, with the dogs who come in for training, you know, it's just like all the dogs, every time they come back here for boarding, all we ever hear is how excited they are to come here, you know, and so that's after training, but even like during training, they come in and they're super disconnected, but then eventually they're connected with us.
Yeah.
Because we just spent 5 weeks doing stuff with them this whole time. Constantly. Every single day, we are working with them. We're doing stuff. We're not sitting on the couch coddling with them. You know, we're actively doing things with them.
Yeah, being active participants with the dog.
Yeah. And that's what they like. They like doing things with us. And, you know, and I think that just goes into that relationship piece. You know, just doing stuff with the dog, teaching them things,
Yeah.
advocating for them.
An easy way to do things with the dog is training them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to build relationship, is training, like, you know, doing obedience commands and things like that. But then there's also just like the lifestyle component, you know,
Yeah.
of how you live, and, you know, and all of that works towards creating the relevancy. You know, it's just like we as the handlers are the access point for everything that the dog wants. Everything, right? And it might sound like, I don't know if it's harsh or extreme or something, but it's just like everything. Think about your dog, and it's like everything that the dog wants should come through us. Because when we have that, then we can allow them to do whatever they want almost.
Yeah, because they're checking in.
Because they're checking in.
You know?
If we don't have that relevance and we're giving them everything and they're allowed to do whatever they want, then that's when we start to see problems arise. You know, because now it's like, you don't ever ask me for anything, but then you want me to do something, then, you know, it's like, you can't expect the dog to listen to you when you don't ever ask them to listen to you.
Yeah.
In those moments when you don't need it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what a lot of people do is like, you know, they expect their dog to listen when they need them to listen, but then there's like the other, you know, 23 hours in the day where they don't ask for that kind of stuff from the dog.
Yeah. And so why would the dog want to listen then?
Yeah, when it matters, you know? And so that's why I'm sure if you've watched our page, it's like everything starts in the house. It's all about the small moments that lead up to the big moments, you know? And I mean, that's just like a big concept for anything, you know? It's like small changes lead to big things. You know, you want to lose weight, stop drinking soda. That's it. You might lose 30 pounds just from doing that.
Yeah.
But then you're going to get, you know, maybe a little burst of motivation to say no to something else, you know, because you've successfully said no to this thing.
And we're back online here.
All right, and we're back. So basically, you know, getting started with your dog, I think, comes down to figuring out where you and your dog are at, coming up with a game plan, and starting small.
Yeah.
You know, and just like making that conscious decision to make changes.
Yeah. I mean, like, just like you mentioned with, like, you know, the start, you know, making the small adjustments and how those will adjust things. The small moments, you know, the small changes lead to big changes, right? The small adjustments lead to big changes. So it's like just adding in a little bit. If, you know, the dog has free roam and you just start adding a little bit of structure, so you teach it place, you could probably see drastic changes in the dog. Give it a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. Just like as if you were to stop drinking soda. Which I know years ago, I lost 20 pounds by not drinking soda for a month.
Yeah.
20 pounds. Soda, sugar.
Yeah.
Years ago. That was like 10 years ago. 13 years ago. I don't know. Long time ago. But small changes, implementing those,
lead to big things.
yeah.
So I think that's going to be a good spot to wrap up for today's podcast. As always, thank you all for listening. If you find this information valuable, please share it so that other people can benefit from it. Also know that we are on YouTube. You can subscribe to us there. That's a great way to support the podcast. You know, show us some support. You can follow us on Instagram. You can like us on Facebook. And this podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify. I think most of the podcast platforms that are out there. And as always, you know, like I said, we really appreciate you all taking, you know, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes out of your day when you're on your drive or walking around, you know, and you're putting us on. It really means a lot. And honestly, I'm humbled by the fact that someone would listen to us as we talk about dogs and concepts and things like that. So it's really cool, and we really appreciate it. So I hope you all have a fantastic day, and we will talk to you next time.
Happy training. I stole it.
Yep, happy training. See ya. Adios.